startup ecosystem in Kerala is unique in having got into a effective strategy of government procurement, where government has been very proactive in terms of building a market for the startups. We had been the first state which came up with a policy of direct procurement of startups, from startups for the various departments, making changes in the procurement policy. We also had, for the last few years, a policy providing for procurement from the startups through a limited tender. Recently, we have enhanced that to the direct procurement process. We have enhanced to 50 lakhs. Originally, it was only for IT and ITES startups, but we have made it sector agnostic now. We have, for the limited purchases, we have enhanced that to 3 crores. This is unique, and no other state government has got a similar policy for promoting startups.
Government is a disaster in business, so it should get out as quickly out of it. That's what she did with UK. Personally, apart from the facilitating role, in our time, I presume government will increasingly exit the businesses which it operates. Why I'm saying this is I had the good fortune to be a chairman of the 2 largest companies which government is the equity shareholder, Centum shareholder, Supplyco as well as the State Electricity Board. Both were experiences which you, on the plus side, of course, you can enumerate a lot of things, but are also good to note that what you should not do with the business as well. By the way, I also realized that people who are starting up, as in the rest of the world, largely male out here. Reflecting the panel, the audience is, what is it, 15%? Is it that women are having a starting up trouble, or generally that the explorer instinct is taking more males into? The things I learned from these 2 companies, number one, Supplyco was quite an experience because it was the largest, just reflecting on it, because it takes you to the idea that fundamentals are so important. Old company, 5,000 crore turnover. The year I was chairman for 2 months, it was in 50 crore losses. And my diagnostic was that the missing fundamental there was financial prudence, and particularly the backlog of audit. If you do not audit a company in terms of stock as well as cash for 5 years, you will understand what will happen to a trading company. So that was the bottom line of what I realized. In 60 days, I realized I cannot fix it. So I went to the minister and tendered my request to shift me out of the chairmanship. It was as simple as that. Without an audit backlog of 5 years, you cannot take that company forward. I don't know what their status as of now is. State Electricity Board, largest company in Kerala, 16,000 crore turnover, monopoly, had another weakness, which I diagnosed and I succeeded to a good extent in attacking that weakness. It was just about that the HR complement was eating away the fortunes of the company. It was attacked decisively with considerable support from government, and the company broke into book profits. Not easy to bring a State Electricity Board. All your comparable boards in the south are in phenomenal losses. We broke to 6,000 crores of book profits, and had it stayed that way with the restructuring plan, which I hope will work for the next 10 fiscals, I don't know how many of you will believe here, your State Electricity Board as a monopoly, if it stays a monopoly, and even if it's a part monopoly, an oligopoly sort of, it is a company which can post 2,000 to 3,000 crores of profit per year and 1,000 crore dividend to the government. This is the value which you can unlock with that company. Now, I leave those experiences aside.
Ashok, but can you just quickly, because you started with the electricity boards. Electricity board had also pioneered coming up with a appropriate startup engagement.
Absolutely.
A number of industry initiatives have come up as a part of that. Can you just quickly touch upon maybe some of the initiatives that?
Well, since my topic today is innovation in agriculture, I wouldn't spend a lot of time on that.
Please go ahead.
But if you look at electricity distribution technology, it's such a fertile ground for startups, starting with spacers, starting with measuring technology, smart meters, again a bone of contention which is not yet settled. Even connectivity for smart meters. I'm sort of ashamed to tell you that Kerala is the only state electricity distribution system which does not have an inlaid GPS as of date, tracking every single asset. And if you compare with some of the other utilities which I have sort of studied in detail, either those operating in Mumbai or TPDL for Delhi, the auto-synced virtual systems which attend to client compliance. For example, all of you have made complaints to the State Electricity Board on a power disruption. But the competitive systems now, if you dial from your registered number, the virtual assistant tells you that we have already diagnosed your issue. So we are doing this. We wanted to do the same with the state board, but it got stuck with an issue which I don't want to discuss here, to put a Swiggy-like system. The moment you lodge a complaint to the designated number, you are updated every 10 minutes as to what the utility is going to do about it and which operator is attending to what and where he is. Just imagine how much it will change the customer experience about it, because until the power is restored, hardly the utility does not really talk back to you. So that I'm just outlining the whole gamut there. If you permit, I will move to agriculture now. So since we have to divide time between people, I will just give you a couple of statistics, because it's not really worthwhile to try and map the entire opportunities for startups in agriculture, food ecosystem. I'll simply give you a couple of facts. By the time Kerala ate today's breakfast, I looked at the breakfast I ate and valued it at something like 90 to 100 rupees. If that is the going rate, Kerala spent 300 crores in its breakfast today morning, and easily 200 crores. I would assume that 30% did not eat commensurately, and people like me and Unnikrishnan may have consumed more than what the average consumes. So Kerala spent 200 crores in its breakfast. And if you assume your lifespan to be the biblical 70 years, you are going to eat not less than 70,000 meals, and take the average of the value as 70 to 80 rupees. You can calculate what is the book value of your food palette for your lifetime. I have computed mine to be not less than rupees 10 crores, which is at least 5 times the money I would spend on my housing and possibly my transport put together, in a capital sense. So this is an evergreen innovating opportunity, so long as your life stands and so long as you can innovate. Keep that in mind. Now, what is the innovation ecosystem? I'll summarize in 5 minutes. The entire value chain is available for you for innovating, for starting up and offering new value into products and services. Just keep this in mind. On the input supply side, the entire crop culture or horticulture is becoming programmable from 2 sides. Number 1, the conditioning environment is becoming sensor driven. Sensors sense as to what the ecosystem wants in excess in terms of fertigation or precision agriculture. And countries like China, countries like Israel have moved forward into substrate-free agriculture, meaning that I need not elaborate these terms. You know about hydroponics, how Israel is commanding 70 times its domestic requirement as an export volume is known to us, and those models are available. China is now innovating, as many of you know, into controlled fermentation. Now, controlled fermentation is where you remove the entire substrate from agriculture, and they have succeeded it, if you believe futurists like Tony Seba and reports coming from China, that milk will be the first product to be completely substrate free, meaning that your milk production, including the protein mix, casein which goes into the production, the fats which constitute that, the 4% of solids plus the 96% of liquids will be produced just like your bottled water in fermentation vats without a single cow or a single udder active in producing that. And that is going to proceed with most of the protein products, and you will not have any substrate dependent, photosynthesis dependent agriculture, to my mind, except most of the fruits and vegetables which you will consume. Now, you can imagine what a radical change that is going to be in the next 10 years, whereby factories will be producing most of what you will consume, and farms are going to recede and become limited to what is essential. I guess fish will remain so for quite some more time, but they're already saying that beef has been effectively sort of
Quite a lot of
tissue
meat is
culture.
going-
So these are all very high investment, high value systems, which I don't think many startups would sort of be able to break into. The other dimension is the energy dimension, because since I have worked with energy also, the other element which will go with this series of innovations will be the solar powering of this production, because now that the panels, the solar powering of this factory production of nutrients will be operated, effectively what will happen is that photosynthesis dependency will rather go away, and the energy system will drive the food system. Then of course there's a question of vitamins and micronutrients which will have to be added to it. And all this implies that the food production system, the retail system will become heavily integrated, and consumer preference is going to drive these systems in a very, very big way. A third driver, I've talked about two drivers, substrate-free agriculture, fermentation, and the third driver is likely to be the requirement of human societies to have safe food. That's a very overwhelming concern, and if these processes can be demonstrated to be less interfering with health, you know what I mean, because agriculture involves a lot of chemicals which have been proven to be hazardous, including pesticides, weedicides, hormones in animal products, etc., antibiotics, to that extent. This can radically change the way we view food in the next coming years. The other major theater will be finance technology for agriculture. I need not elaborate. Agriculture, like any other industry, works just as the farm to fresh to home innovators, startup persons were demonstrating. The financial technologies, because these, when production becomes forecastable and predictable, what happens is that it will be easier to bet on futures in agriculture, and therefore the whole financial regime which drives what we understand as smallholder support in agriculture is likely to change radically. So will be the insurance cover which will be required in agriculture. That implies that the insurance regimes, including weather-based fundamental crop insurance as well as inlays for specific crops with specific risks, particularly fisheries, dairy, will have to be sort of innovated out. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. Another theater will be that of genomics, particularly crop selection. We all know the huge people who have an inroad into agriculture and how, for example, genotypes get selected. You know what a cumbersome process it is to sort of finalize a particular variant. So that will be another theater. Without elaboration, fourth theater I can think of will be technologies in irrigation, which will stay for quite some time, because this whole idea of fermented agriculture is in the horizon. 10 years it will come. But making precision agriculture and fertigation will be another theme. And the last I would name and leave it there will be value addition from the fundamental products, the first line primary products to pre-cooked processes, because all these changes will go in line with the huge changes which is happening in society, where the increased number of people who are consuming meals away from home and the requirements of smaller and more occupied homes in terms of the professional commitments or opportunities of entertainment or availability of travel as leisure, you are going to require much more number of semi-cooked or 3/4 cooked or finished products on the table rather than raw material. It's a very, very interesting mix if you look at all these drivers. I think I will stop here because you want to ask others. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashok. Thank you, Ashok, for coming up with a high technology external input agriculture model, which, of course, it doesn't that way fit with the sort of present model of agriculture in Kerala. So I'm sure that under his leadership, Kerala could make insights hugely into some of the ideas that he had been mooting, which definitely is going to give quite a lot of value to the agriculture system in Kerala, and a lot of opportunities for the startups here to come up with initiatives, whether it is in precision agriculture or in aquaponics and substrate-free agriculture, the solar and other systems that are required for driving these, and also looking at blockchain and other sort of initiatives for safe food, and then the huge aggregation put, because quite a lot of these things will have to happen decentralized, given the sort of very subtle ecological balance that we have in Kerala. So many of these things will have to be highly decentralized, and so naturally the value addition and other process would have to happen over an aggregator framework. So this also gives a lot of opportunities for IoT, for AI-based systems and related areas. So there's huge opportunity for people like you. So maybe we can go into questions after the other presentations. I would request Vigneshwari before, because maybe subsequently, the IT systems could converge all this and then put it in a sort of a perspective. If you could talk about some of the possibilities in education. Content had been one area, and we have seen Byju's making huge opportunities, and there had been issues about his enterprise as well. But all the same, the possibilities of content had been very huge. Keralites had been always been teaching, and this had been one of the teaching, and also looking at knowledge professions. Because originally Keralites had been clerks and secretaries, throughout the country, and even supervisory roles had been very fascinating for the Keralites. They had been also teaching in the Northeast and the rest of the places. So education always had been a huge opportunity which Keralites had been plunging into, making use of their NRI connects and things like that in the new context, in terms of the knowledge economy transition and the Center of Excellences and the other programs which you are driving in the Department of Collegiate Education, Higher Education. How do you look forward to the opportunities of youngsters and startups in education?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. So I'm Vigneshwari. I'm the Director of Collegiate Education as well as Managing Director of Kerala Tourism Development Corporation. So I would like to start with the projects which we have collaborated with startups in the last 2-3 years. So we have projects ranging up to 1.5 crores in which we have involved ourselves with 3-4 startups, both in the tourism as well as education sector. Not clearly into education, because we have right now started the periphery of it. One example is the Green Campus Initiative, which we have collaborated with startups from Kerala and one from Aurangabad. So this is about maintaining the campus, and the project's value, the value of the projects are ranging from 20 to 40 lakhs, and which is also into an AMC mode. So these are the projects that we are working in higher education sector. And in the tourism sector, the reservation, the restaurant management is being done by a startup. And there's another organization, Center for Continuing Education in Kerala, for which I'm a director as well. This is an organization which runs Kerala State Civil Service Academy. So an online portal for this academy is also being developed by a startup. So we have mixed reactions when it comes to startup. So initially, like Dr. Unnikrishnan proposed, so up to 25 lakhs we can directly entrust to a startup without going through any bidding competitive process. The lessons learned were huge. There were startups which failed to deliver in higher education sector, and this has actually brought down our confidence over startups. And still we are taking up other projects with startups. But one thing which I would like to share here is that the promises made by startups are to be met, so that you are leaving a trail for others to follow. So you're pioneers here. So your delivery or your exchange of service is going to matter for many startups following your lead. So there were cases where startups even closed, and they disappeared all of a sudden. We were not able to do anything about it, since we are not managing our own company or organization, and we are responsible for the entire public, being a civil servant. It's becoming difficult for us to take up projects with startups again. So this is one thing which I would like to share. And regarding the timelines which are promised are never being met. I believe that there will be so many hurdles which you are facing as well. But if it is being put on black and white, that this is what can be delivered at this particular point of juncture, that would help us plan various other things which are on our palette. So these are the things I would want you not to repeat, because this is where we find it difficult, because like he said, up to 25 lakhs we can just give it to you, and up to 3 crores it's sort of a limited tender as well. So the opportunities are huge. Slowly government is trying to restrict itself only to essential services, and we are trying to withdraw from services which could be delivered better by anyone other than government. So there is also another online portal which we are developing, both for the Collegiate Education Department as well as Civil Services Academy. One is being entrusted to a startup, and the rest we are still in the process. These are the things we are working with, and other aspects which actually would have a potential for startup intervention would be just like Dr. Unnikrishnan mentioned, content creation. Right now we are all going to a digital learning mode. Every college is having a LMS, but our teachers would rather not want to become content creators for other matters, because they are into active research, they have other mentoring, other teaching, and other related duties to be taken up. So this is a sector where startups can start venturing in. And with respect to tourism, the management of restaurants or the operations part of it, we are planning to slowly contract it out to startups, at least in phases where specialization is required. And there is another project of Lux Tourism which is in the pipeline, in which we would like to give curated, personalized experiences to our privileged guests. Those projects would cost around starting from 10 lakhs for a 3 or 4 day trip to Kerala. So we want every minute of their journey to be precious, and we would want startups to be involved in it in curating such packages. So with these words, practically these are the domains where the startups could associate with government, and yes, the environment is really friendly, and it is up to you to make the best use of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vigneshwari, for 2 points we raised. One is about the issues in terms of working with governments, because these are 2 different cultures. So it's difficult because you have to come to a common understanding regarding the timelines, regarding the deliverables. And if you fail, then it could be disastrous for both sides. So it's extremely important, and also to meet the timelines and achieve the timelines, and also not to state something which you cannot actually deliver. So these are important lessons which everybody who had been in promoting startup from the government side would have at least one story to say that that startup said this, that was not delivered. Then, or there could be another story where the startup was not capable of doing that when he was forced to get into that, and then finally things did not work out. So these are things which have to be, but then there are huge opportunities, as she was rightly pointing out, looking at the augmented reality, virtual reality, the metaverse, and the sort of technologies, the opportunities which gives you in terms of providing content, in terms of digital twinning. These are all huge opportunities in terms of content generation, and tourism for providing different customer experiences. This is a huge area, and it's very kind of her to also dwell into tourism, because she has got responsibilities in tourism as well. Now I would request Snehil Kumar, who is heading the Kerala State IT mission also, and has got very important responsibilities with the IT department in spearheading the programs of startup as well as for promoting knowledge industries, and also creating an infrastructure for IT in the state. So these are the various things in which he is involved. I would request him to come forward.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So, see, we deal with a lot of startups in the sense of when you bring up businesses and we, create projects for you. So, when you listen to all of us, you'll realize that government is a very interestingly beautiful market. So you have as simple as a mere website design as a project, and as complex as Sir mentioned, probably designing smart grid networks and using big data for doing that. So you have this ranges. I'll not talk about the money part because obviously every project is related to certain element of what they do. But I'll give you the one context. So almost every week we have this, as a government, as a marketplace, as a project, what happens is that every department talks to a certain startup company. They might raise their own requirements, and the startup mission coordinates those activities, try to find out which startups are suitable to do this and collect proposals from them, and then we do a comparative exercise, and then we finalize which startup is eligible to get so-and-so project. In the past 1 year, almost every 2 weeks we are conducting these final meetings, and every meeting has around 7 to 8 project proposals, ranging from 10 lakhs to 20 lakhs to 30 lakhs, whatever. So this is the quantum of work that we are doing in terms of the entire government setup. Majority of the projects which you see, and before coming to the majority and minority part of it, but you need to understand the government has two functions here. One is our interaction with the citizens. It could be electricity, it could be agriculture, it could be education. And then the other part of the picture is the governance part. How do we manage our offices? And that is where the maximum demand is coming up from the government department, that we want to digitize our own processes, we want to digitize our own offices, automate them in some way or the other. And obviously the citizen service part is also a very complicated in the sense of because citizen services require a lot of conscious and persistent effort in terms of getting things done. So any application, for example, we digitize the process of getting an income certificate and a caste certificate for a particular citizen. We run on a back-end system which is managed by NIC. If you want to make it a little more smarter, make it a little more efficient, it requires a huge problem of legacy. We have to train all our staff, we have to train our officials who give out these services, and then subsequently it reaches the citizen. So there's that complexity, which is open for all the startups to actually explore, where I think brilliant ideas have come across, and it's still very fertile ground for getting those kind of opportunities. Then when I want to come to the majority part of it, we are not looking for very complicated solutions. Government is not looking for very complicated solutions. We want simple technologies which we can adopt, because we just want things to be adopted quickly. We do not want, not for all projects, blockchain technologies. What would government do with blockchain unless it actually improves our performance or it improves the lives of the citizens? There are only two things. So I have been slightly on the crossroads here that, should we completely go into AI, blockchain, or should we stick to the basics and try to improve our performances within the ambit of it? So that's a different debate also altogether. But with the startups, it's really helpful that you need to come up with ideas, because we are slightly arrogant sometimes in the government. We feel that okay, our projects, our processes are good enough, and we'll manage it somehow. So if you come up with ideas, I have seen. Defensive rather, yeah, defensive also, once we have the proposals with us. So when you come up with the ideas to us, it really opens up our eyes and mind that, okay, there is a smarter way to do this. There's a very simpler way to do this. So I've always been telling startup companies that please go and meet the concerned offices. Please go and meet the concerned offices. Maybe you have not understood the project requirement in the first stage, but once you talk to those people, you will understand it. Then you can come up with the project. Then you can come up with a proposal, come up with the solutions. So I'll give you an example. One of the companies came to me, sir, we have a solution. So we manage the public Wi-Fi hotspots for across the state. So we have around 2,000 public Wi-Fi hotspots. And we have not been able to monetize it in some way or the other. The advertisement didn't work through. So this guy came up, sir, like it's a very simple technology if you think about it. We just need to divert your page to a certain other page, and it will redirect you to some other advertisement page, and you'll be able to generate some revenue out of here and there. Which really gave me an epiphany that why didn't I think of it? So there could be two reasons that probably like I am preoccupied into other things and I'm not able to focus on this thing. And other thing is that people have actually not offered me these solutions. So now we're talking up to that startup, trying to tweak those projects and solutions and take it on board to our project somehow. And obviously the procurement process has been made very simple for any one of you to actually literally come in, drop in your project proposal. The team will be, excited to onboard that and give you the work order. But having said that, you need to understand that government is not just like any other client. So the stakes are much higher. If you commit and if you do not deliver, all of us are at loss. All of us are at loss. And it really disturbs the entire equation because right now we're in a very good position to actually onboard startups, and smaller projects have already been delivered, but once you take up complex challenges, it's the responsibility of the department also and also of the startup to streamline their expectations and the requirements. Otherwise, these problems will keep on coming up. And we have partners like NIC, for example. NIC has been running our majority of the applications for governments. Now, NIC also has to modify. Now, if we are looking for an alternative to NIC, you need to think in that direction. That can you deliver the things that NIC is delivering? And the beautiful, and I'll tell in the most tech perspective, you have that SRS, right? You have the system requirement, you have the user requirements. You should forget that in government. The requirement changes every day. And it could be because of us, as a government department, we are not able to consolidate all the requirement together. It could be because of our lack of understanding between the startups and the department itself. But you need to think all these things. When you're quoting, for example, you're quoting 5 lakh rupees for a project which is going to run for 10 years, for 2 years. Obviously, you're going to make loss of it. So you need to plan it according to that. And we have had failures in where the companies have come up and said, sir, we'll do it for 3 lakhs, we'll do it for 4 lakhs. And then they realize that, oh, the project is way too complicated for us to manage it in the coming time and duration. So when you're dealing with the government, please be open to the idea that the requirements will keep on dynamically changing because the government functions like that. There'll be one order, one modification, and the entire process changes. So the technologies and the solutions that you come up with have to be slightly more adaptive and more dynamic to us. Please discuss with the department so that departments also, open up their eyes that, okay, we have a better solution available. I was just going through one of the AI tools recently, and I found one a web page called MEM, M-E-M. So what it does is it's a very simple AI tool in which whatever I write, it arranges into different subsets automatically, and whenever I have to recall it, it automatically gives me all the connected points. A very simple tool. It's not, I'm sure many of you would have done similar projects. And I think if all of us start using it, probably our productivity in the government will increase drastically. So it's a product probably you can think about. It's a office management, but at a personal level. So I've given you a lot of context into what government departments are looking for, and I think it's a very ripe and a very fertile ground right now. So please come up with more ideas. We are more ready to give you more work orders. The money part, obviously, it is more than 1 crore, 2 crores. The project scale is incredibly high. You should not worry about it, but you should deliver what you promise. Thank you.
Thank you, Snehil. Snehil has brought out a very important point. You had been, I mean, as developers, you look forward to the software requirement specifications, and you plan around. If you're planning around something like waterfall model and all that, it is not going to work in government at all. It has to be agile, and most agile of the whole thing, because you go on continuing to shift your requirements. And I will tell you, when I had started building applications for government, I had used Barry Baum's spiral model for application development, which it's extremely iterative, and that's how requirements change in government when you're trying to do that. And so that you have to keep in mind when you're getting into government projects in terms of requirements, finalizing the requirements, what is there and what is not there. You have to be very specific, and you have to be prepared to go in for continuous changes in working with government. But of course, you have the opportunity, because the possibilities of scaling are humongous. So if in case you succeed in an initiative, then the possibilities are also huge, and that is what you should look forward to. So those are the pros and cons of government. I would also now, all the speakers had been highlighting, one of the important issues with startup solutions, because I had been working with quite a lot of startups for the last several years, and now as a part of KDISC, we have a number of initiatives where startups have been brought in through the startup procurement route. For emerging technology in government, we have a number of the G-Gator solution, which has come up in the health sector, the blood bag solution, which has been brought out by BAGMO. Many of these solutions have been now drawn into the government through the KDISC route. And one of the issues that we have faced is that the technology readiness level of many of the products which startups bring out are not high enough for actual rollout. And so this is where KDISC had been working with the startups. And what we had been doing is we have created a sort of incubation provisions as a part of our programs to see whether we can improve the technology readiness level, and this requires very high inputs, quality inputs from experts in various sectors, and this is what we have been trying to do as a part of the emerging technology program in government, where we have been working with the health department, the police department, and various other government departments to bring in startups and to help them, to scaffold them, to address some of the technology readiness level issues. And we have been, to a certain extent, successful. There have been cases where we failed also. Now, this is extremely important when we are trying to come up. I mean, it is good to think of becoming a unicorn, but I mean, it's also equally important to talk about quality and technology readiness level before you get into launches and like that, and this is very critical. And if you're looking at, because now we have to move deeper into the scope of the startups that we have in Kerala. One of the weaknesses for people who are looking at the startup ecosystem is that the depth of the startups in several sectors, for instance, agriculture, animal husbandry, fisheries, these sort of sectors, and maybe areas like traditional industries. In some of these areas, our strength is primarily in IT and ITS. In other sectors, the number of startups who have come forward and the number of solutions and ideas that we have actually brought into in other sectors are limited. There are huge opportunities in this sector. For instance, Ashok had been talking about the opportunities in agriculture. Now, local governments are now opening up into startups. We have announced a program called One Local Government, One Idea, where challenges in 27 different themes relating to local governments are now going to be thrown up through hackathons in the coming few months. So this is a huge opportunity for intervening in real life problem solving in the state, for looking at problems which the community faces, the department faces, the government faces, and to solve those problems. You have to look at also technology readiness level and community readiness level, and also the risks when working with government and with local government. There are quite a lot of risks that you have to, all the speakers have come up about the points, and so now I think we had one round of discussion, and now it would be good if you could have some questions, and then we will respond to those questions. So we would keep it as a time open for the startups to come up with specific questions to this.
Yes, we are in the final 4 minutes of our discussion. We can have 1 or 2 questions from the audience, requesting the mic to be kindly passed.
Maybe Ashok has...
If you can take just a minute from what the other speakers said. I think this clearinghouse of proof of concepts which Snehil's system has needs to be a little more strengthened, because I have noticed in government week after week requirements come up. Just about yesterday in the review of e-office, typically something came up, meaning various organizations are using various filing platforms, and now you need transfer protocols to bring the movement of inputs into. I was just thinking that's a fantastic field for some startup to come up, study all the filing systems and do the... and I also thought that in fact your policy mentions this, the Swiss challenge, whereby if I leave a trail of my requirement, stated in not so professional terms, and the proof of concept can be given. And once the first cut design is given, minus the proprietary portions, if we could sort of do an electronic Swiss challenge and further it up to 1 crore, which you are permitting, it could become very fast.
Now it is 3 crore.
3 crore, whichever is your limit for startups. I think we'll be doing them a great service, particularly companies in the first 10 years. You could kindly consider that.
Sir. Sir, I have two questions to the IT Secretary. I am basically from a space startup. I think space technology also comes in the IT. I have registered in the KCM, but whenever I am pitching in, but the space tech doesn't fall in that. So getting into the funding or the pitching is becoming difficult. So can you think of something which is for the space techs? And second one is, as Dr. Unnikrishnan mentioned, local governments is application side, there are a lot of opportunities, but the main hurdle comes from the availability of the satellite and the drone data, which comparatively we will be using for getting a very good solution for any agriculture, dams, forests, whatever the application side. So can we think of a centralized nodal point where you get all the data and the users can access it at their use, I mean, depending on the availability and the usage of the data and which data they want, of course, for cost. So it would be very helpful for the startups to take up those activities. Thank you, sir.
So regarding your first question, so government is coming up with a space park very shortly. Actually, it is almost in the final stage. It will be coming in the Techno City phase campus, Technopark phase 4 campus. So it has a component of various manufacturing and equipment design related to space, and we want to create an ecosystem around the sector. So probably in the coming 1 year, I feel that we will have a ready product in which startups will be able to engage directly, because right now we are in a very nascent stage where the society is yet to be formed. It will be called K-Space as of now. So we are hoping that Kerala will become one of the focal points in terms of the space technologies and expansion also. Regarding your second question, so we are working on it, and we are very actively doing the open government data platform. And we want to, we are already in a very advanced stage in this stage, because a lot of departments have started to share their data in those open government data platforms also. And we were coming with a policy document which specifically mentions that the geospatial data related to that is already available on the net. Right now it is under the Kerala Spatial Data Infrastructure, where we are collecting all the GIS-based data from different sources, collecting it together, and it is open for all the public to use it. So it is readily available. You can download the layer, you can work on it, and however we want to. And adding on to just what Madam said is that what I am thinking ahead is the open API policy. That we need to open up the APIs for the different government departments also, which probably will give you a lot of interesting insights into how we can design systems, which happened with the, let's say, UPI, which is going to happen with the ONDC also, where the APIs are available, data is available, let you bring up new technologies. So I'm hoping that in the coming years, we are in the right direction. Open government data, we are in a pretty good position right now, I feel. And we can improve, obviously, in terms of the public data that has to be going out.
Yeah. I have a question here. Can you hear me? So government as a marketplace for startups is a great idea, and something that we really appreciate, government coming in forward and supporting startups. So it normally has a 3-stage process where you do an EOI, expression of interest, then it goes through the technical evaluation and the financial evaluation. So you mentioned about after you are awarded the contract, you should be able to deliver it, right? So one thing that I kind of find missing in that, for the government to evaluate the deliverability of the solution that is being provided. So if there are two competitors, one coming in with a quotation for 2 lakhs versus someone giving it for 20 lakhs, after the technical evaluation, during the financial evaluation, it is just granted to the person who is giving the 2 lakh quotation. But if you are going with a private player, if you are going and providing your code to a private player, they would definitely challenge that. Right? Why would I give it a 2 lakh? Not just because it's cheaper, but can that be really be delivered by the vendor? Is it feasible? Is it realistic? Right? So that element of validation is something that I found missing during the entire process. So is there something that can be done to improve on that process to make sure that, you also mentioned about agility and being able to address to the challenges coming up during the requirement changes, right? But agility and fixed price is oxymoron. But still government expects a fixed price deal when agility is expected. If you still go to a private in a customer, they would really challenge you as a vendor. Are you really able to deliver to this expectation? When our requirements are agile in nature and you are giving us a fixed price. Because we would go with a lot of change requests and all that, and they really don't really want that, right? So how do we address that challenge is my question. Thank you.
Short answer, let's not go for the L1 and L2. Short answer is, let's go for direct procurement. Give us a project proposal which the department says that, okay, I am willing to give you 50 lakh rupees for this project. I don't even want to have a comparison or competition between other startup companies. First point. Long answer to this question is that, see, we as a government, we have processes. If our requirements are not very well thought out, yes, we would rely on the process of selection to actually filter these things out for us. And as Sir was mentioning that, yes, we need to strengthen it also. Probably the technical evaluation and the POC part of what the startups do for us would have to be strengthened. That is completely our fault, because departments also are not able to very streamline the requirement documents that they have to prepare. But the technical valuation and the financial valuation has to happen. We can't really get away with it. If you think in the longer run. Obviously, and I've been telling this to startups, so I can't tell you openly that, quote higher or something like that. I can't tell you this, but I can definitely tell you that please understand what my requirement is. Just don't get the work order for the sake of getting the work order. Because if you do not deliver and then we get into this kind of problem where, a person has quoted 2 lakh rupees and the other company has quoted 20 lakh rupees, I will have to go with 2 lakh. I'm bound for doing that because you are the cheaper option available for me. So, in the longer run, yes, we need to improve our technical evaluation process where the filtering of the lowest quotes get automatically done in terms of that. And I'm sure probably Startup Mission and we can work together to streamline that thing. But in the shorter aspect, please prepare project proposals which are very open for us to accept directly. We don't want competition.
I can just add to it, because the reverse experience has also been on record. In the early days of automation, somebody purchased a software, proprietary, without a tender, with good reasons, for rupees 5 crore. Later when the C&AG questioned the value of it, experts certified it for 90 lakhs. I have written rejoinders to the C&AG for 1 good year on how you ended up buying something worth 90 lakhs at 5 crores. So anyway, nobody has gone to jail for that. That's good, but you never know where it can end up. The real answer in terms of systems will be, one problem lies in the inherent nature of innovation. There is no guarantee that somebody cannot offer at 2 lakhs what the other man is doing at 20 lakhs, theoretically. So the way to filter it out is only to look at the design, what has gone into it, which is objective to 70%, but then you will not tell us the rest of 25%, and there's no way to really zero down on 100%. Maybe you can do a QCBS and sort of assign values to your quality and then put the cost as the second parameter. Even in 70-30, you're going for 70-30 for your limited tenders, but not for outright procurement. So an issue remains there, and only the diligence of the procuring committee can sort of help you both ways with transparency. The other way to crack it is to do a Swiss challenge in any case. You reveal whatever is you don't want to hold back on the product, put it on the open source and see if anybody can better the price and seal the deal. I don't see a third option. If you get it, do tell us. We are also curious, because it's a running dilemma in any sort of procurement. Thank you.
Thank
No
you,
doubt
sir.
that we have only the QCBS and Swiss Challenge as the two solutions for addressing this. Now, interestingly, we have also thought about, the problem which Ashok had been saying, and also the problem of failures. Addressing failures which we are handling, we are now thinking of we have actually initiated some work on creating a risk mitigation fund in government, where there will be a possibility for de-risking. When some startups come up with a brilliant, innovative idea and there is a risk of failure involved, the person who actually ventures into taking up that risk and then supporting that startup will not land up in a danger, and we are trying to create a risk mitigation protocol for that. I think that would also come a very strong way in taking the startup journey forward.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
One more point from my side, because he was telling about non-transparency in the selection process. But in my experiences, we have followed this QCBS process and we have made it open, and the weightage is 70-30, and we have not given it to the least bidder in whatever projects we have given. So yes, there is scrutiny of quality also, but we also need it to be quantified so that we are making the right choice.
Sir, this is to Ashok, sir. Sir, what are the prospects of genomics in agriculture? What are the areas, the innovation startups you expect in the field of genomics in agriculture? And I am coming to KCB. You quoting Margaret Thatcher said that government is a disaster in business. That is true as well to KCB. Government is a disaster in business. That can be transferred to KCB as well. Because tremendous amounts are heaping day by day because of uncollected variance from health sector, from the water authority is mounting up. So there is no financial planning there. So you also mentioned about the distribution, power distribution technologies. Is there any smart meter startups there?
So very wide-ranging things, but I'll attack genomics first. Of course, you know the conventional selection of planting material follows a certain protocol. For example, for things like oil palm, I believe it takes about 20 years to identify, even for coconut, to select the breeding strains. Conventional propagation and selection of your appropriate attribute fit takes decades. Agriculture scientists know this. Now, if you use reverse marker-based selections, right from tissue culture, if you identify from the genomic sequence as to which fits your requirement for a particular product, this particular cycle can be broken. Many countries have done so, but I cannot tell you that currently our agriculture research system is into genome-based selection of planting material. That is something which will come up just as much as, so that obviates the need to see the phenotype to actually, with a remarkable degree of predictability, you can say that the genetic markers tell me that this cross in this strain, in the series of strains, I pick up this 10%, which are likely to show me the protein expression, the gene expression as they call it. My biotechnology is 20 years old. In fact, I left my biotechnology to join civil service. So, but all the same, the gene expression control obviates your requirement to actually see the phenotype and then harvest and then combine and then take it forward. So that is a short answer. I don't know whether I quoted Thatcher in the way you mentioned, but her sense was facilitate but don't get into core businesses like mining and power and, but anyway, there are examples from UK also which show that private sector need not succeed. Railways is a very good example. They have now renationalized railways. So at the end of the day, what I have learned 25 years in government is that when you enter a business, the fundamental rule is either ensure, even if you are in losses, cash losses, ensure that that is serving the clientele well. All right, you are not making money out of it, but it is delivering a wonderful service. Like, for example, the ambulance service. The service is run pretty well and nobody is complaining about it. It is world class. You are happy about it. But fundamentally, a business is about generating a cash register, paying for your costs, and having enough surplus to plan for your future. It's very simple. Look at it that way. If you are producing a value of 20 rupees, please do it at 15 rupees. Have a surplus of 5 to provide for your future and your requirement for investments to expand your business or even sustain it in that sense. If you are not doing that, whichever other formulation may not be sort of sustain you in the long run. Coming to distribution technology and smart meters, wonderful opportunity because smart meter is, as those in electricity distribution know, it is not a one component thing. It has series of softwares which operate it. The physical meter with the gauge and the transmission, which is fundamentally it can be Wi-Fi or it can be your SIM cards, so that's a fantastic boost. Just imagine when Kerala implements it, about 1.3 points of direct connectivity with the main server are going to be established. Whichever is the utility, if it is KSCB or if there are more distribution companies as Government of India is planning, as it goes with a growth rate of 15% per annum, 1.5 crore new connectivity points which have to necessarily communicate through what they call, I forget the sequence of softwares which operate, the series of middleware which go into the control of the meter, the intermediate transmission, then it takes to the obviating a whole circle of billing, and more or less your power connection becomes an application in your cell phone which keeps telling you every time that right now you are consuming X units, would you like to reduce it? Or now it is a peak where the power charges are multiplied by a factor of this, so would you like to switch down points? So intelligent controller over your power connection. Just imagine what it will do to businesses. How it will alter the entire landscape of power consumption. So that is a wonderful market to go. I can't say there is a strategy to engage startups right here, but I think you should engage right into the technology. And I also know that all over India by bids which have been completed in the other states, that there are only about 6 serious players in this market, smart meters at the moment. Don't only look at government. Those companies which are definitely one of them or two of them who are going to take the Kerala market, for instance, would need a lot of supporting, rolling out as well as middleware support, maintenance support. It's not that you need your own product. Your service also really matters. And the manpower which will go into establishing a whole series of people who are going to come and using the analog device you have them coming to your home, right? They come read the meter and then retransfer the data and then take the bill out. The whole thing is going for a 6, which is going to revolutionize the way we consume power. So please look at it, that chain in a very close way. I'm sure you will find a lot of business there.
Thank you so much, sir.
What Ashok had indicated, there are 2 important initiatives in genomics. The last budget had announced the Kerala Genome Data Center. I'm sure that maybe by the end of this year we will take important decisions, which would be the first of its kind in the country, which would look at genome sequencing of human data, of animal data and plant data, which would go a big way in terms of taking the genomic revolution in the state forward. And also, as Ashok was indicating, I mean, in the power sector, we have 2 major things. One is we have a major program on EV consortium. The Hydrogen Valley is likely to come up in Kerala. There is a huge opportunity in terms of floating solar, which has come up. The Honorable CM had, indicated in his, the Principal Secretary to CM had indicated about that. Then 48-volt DC. That's a huge opportunity. Maybe electricity board might not be very keen about that, but with solar coming in, 48 volt, the first 48 volt DC public building has been established in KDISC. So we are also very seriously looking at those sort of opportunities. So huge possibilities are coming up in green energy and life science related sectors. With the microbiome is another project, nutraceuticals is another center of excellence coming up. These are all gone, fairly into detailed stages, and KDISC is involved in some of these activities.